it up.
I'm walking. Still coming this way.
Yep. And action.
Hi, my name's Channing Lowe. I'm the director of Ground Zero. And this here is the making of Ground Zero. When we started making Ground Zero, we wanted to make a zombie movie. And since zombie movies usually take a large budget, with lots of, obviously with lots of makeup and usually tons and tons of people to be zombies that are surrounding buildings and eating people and all that type of stuff, we thought, well, since we have a low budget, why don't we make a zombie movie that has just a few zombies in it. The kind of the starting place of I guess the zombie epidemic is the idea of the concept of this movie. Mainly because of the budget, we're thinking, well, this could be like the starting grounds, or hence the name Ground Zero for the zombie, basically a virus that starts taking over, and it would all take place in kind of one major location. Once again, one of the constraints we had of a low budget was we wanted to make it all take place in one place. And so we had it take place in a large warehouse, and where the virus starts out, and then just about these people that kind of try to contain the virus and keep it in one location, basically, so it doesn't get out and spread. And we had a lot of fun shooting this. We took some time with some of the lighting and tried to make things look really good. We did things when we did shots during the day. We were trying to make it look like nighttime, and blackened out the windows and use some HMI lights and other things to kind of get the hopefully kind of a darker feel to the movie, and kind of an eerie feel to it, and especially that's why we ended up choosing a little bit more of the kind of old locations. Aside from the one you're seeing here, this is more of this is kind of the opening scene, Jairus's apartment, but then later on in the movie, once they get to the warehouse, pretty much the whole of the movie, almost the whole of the movie takes place inside of the dingy old warehouse where a few people were executed. And
I like this shot. Let's use that.
And that's basically where the virus starts, is by one of the people that was shot in the head, supposedly shot right through the head, so it didn't affect the brain. And one of them comes back to life that was infected with a virus that ended up breaking into a lab and taking the virus and injecting himself with the virus, and therefore with the intent of going out and showing what some company is doing with biochemical warfare.
Well, most people just do.
Oh, sorry. I know. I was going to channel more.
Have him do it.
As I mentioned before, the movie had a pretty low budget. In fact, it had relatively no budget to it. For this cause, we were on a pretty quick timeline as well. We were trying to get this done in a hurry because a lot of people were working for free and helping out for free. And that's like I mentioned before, was one of the primary reasons we chose one main location that most of the movie takes place in. We started shooting in March of 2010. And it was cold. The warehouse that we chose didn't have any heater in it. And you see everybody in the making of stuff wearing flannel shirts and jackets and coats. That's why it was kind of horrible for a couple of the actors, a couple of the extras that had to be dead on the ground for a little while. The cement was very, very cold. We had to keep sending them back to the break room. There was a heater in the break room that we could go back and warm up in between takes. And then they'd come out and they'd lay down on the cold, hard cement in pools of blood and basically freeze for a little while. So they appreciated that. But seriously, though, I think everybody did have a good time. Everybody enjoyed shooting. It was fun to attempt a zombie movie on such a low budget, but the actors did a great job and the crew did a good job. We were on pretty much a skeleton crew with a minimal amount of equipment, and I think for what we're setting out to do, I think it turned out pretty nice, and hopefully pulled out a pretty decent, entertaining movie, which was our goal. As I mentioned before, with any zombie movie you make, you're going to need makeup. You're going to need a certain amount of makeup. So we brought on Tom Jensen. Tom Jensen's a great makeup artist. Designed these are some preliminary tests here. We were testing two things, kind of the zombie makeup look and a knife test. He wanted to test a knife that we were going to be using in the movie, where he made a plastic knife and a real knife. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But here's some looks at some of the zombie makeup before I actually see some of the blood on the face. There's a shot with the blood on the face afterwards, after Sonic gets shot in the head. And like I said, almost everybody in the movie gets shot in the head. Did a lot of squibs with that. But
Tom's been nice enough to tell me I have no neck, so he had to put the veins on my head. I thought it was very polite of him to say, so I'm putting the veins on your head because you really have no neck.
Now, Tom came on. Tom was great with makeup. He designed some stuff beforehand. I told him what we wanted, that people were going to get their necks ripped out by some of the zombies in this, and of course afterwards that they would come back to life. And he did kind of a progression with them in different stages. Every time he came in, he asked, "What stage is this in? Did they just die? Are they coming back to life now? Or what stage of life?"
Basically, Channing.
What stage of the zombie are they at right now? And I'd say, well, they're freshly dead. So he would go through the stages, make more veins as they got closer to becoming a zombie, and did a great job. The makeup looked great. He did anything from bullet holes in the head to veins on the neck to the lips that you saw before, just like the chapped, ripped, bloody lips.
This is gonna be so cool. We gotta get you through the blocking.
Love those lips.
Beautiful. We're gonna get some good close-ups too.
Look like much.
And the eyes we did digitally. We were thinking about doing those with contacts, but after we found out about the costs and also about having to get them sized for specific people, and some people never having worn contacts would be an issue. So we decided to do those digitally. But all the makeup that was done in this was practical. The squibs were practical. We did a garden hose sprayer for the squibs. But the one thing that we really wanted was kind of the gore on the neck.
We'll have him struggle a little bit and almost come to a stop like this, so then it shows. So see how it kind of calms down. And then right there, and then we'll cut back to the live shot.
Next time, get the blood that tastes good, like the mint.
You can actually get a Carol syrup kind of.
No one will see
Now this here is the knife that Tom made. He had an actual buck knife that we used as a prop, but then he made a replica of it out of some sort of hard plastic that was able to be cut in half. And as you see here, he made this little connection to stick it to the zombie's chest, because there's a part in the scene where the zombie gets stabbed in the chest, and then he can't pull the knife out, so the knife stays in the zombie's chest as he keeps attacking D.L. Walker's character. So we had to have this knife sticking out of his chest, and obviously we couldn't stick a real knife in his chest, so we made a fake plastic knife that we stuck onto the little hooks. But almost everybody in the movie became a zombie, except for David Canlin is like one of the people. Chris Harvey died as a human in it. He did not become a zombie. He got shot in the face. And even the main character, Mike Langer, if you haven't seen the movie, this is a spoiler here, but he becomes a zombie as well. And even Dave Canlin gets bitten in the end and implies that he's going to become a zombie. But yeah, a lot of blood, a lot of good makeup. And some changes in the pitch for the voice on the people that become zombies, and then some digital changes on the eyes, and you got yourself a nice looking zombie ready to eat some flesh.
Right there. Okay, Dave starts screaming and struggling. Good, cut.
Now, a couple other things that happened in the movie, in the script, were, as I mentioned before, was vomiting and some people getting shot in the head. So we wanted to look pretty realistic when people vomited. So I conducted some tests with a vomit machine that I kind of found on the internet actually, and pulled together and tried to perfect a little bit to make it look like. Now these are some preliminary tests here. I had my wife videotape me, so I was conducting these tests, and we had the hose that was spraying directly out of the mouth, and it kind of looked fake. It looked like something was just literally spraying right out of the mouth, and didn't look too good. So I refashioned it so it kind of pointed toward the tongue inside the mouth, pointed down instead of outwards, and then get this kind of effect here where it.
Did you get that from Maverick?
Yes, 32 ounces of chunky blood from Maverick. It was a
Free
refill,
refills.
It was only 89 cents, so
Right.
a refill. Didn't have to pay full price.
So after we came up with an official mixture of tomato sauce and fake blood, then what we would do is take a garden hose sprayer and a long tube, and we would pour it into a funnel and let it fill up this long tube. It was probably about like 12 feet, so we filled it up with about like I think about 4 cups total of liquid.
So the way I understand this to work, and I haven't really been run through the process yet, we haven't even tested it on me yet, is fill up this tube with the barf mixture that we've talked about, and then they pump it up. And they pump it up a certain number of pumps, and then that gives it pressure, and then I have the good fortune to put the end of the tube in my mouth and bend it in there and curl my tongue so the opening hits my tongue and it vomits out when they hit the button to release it. Not sure how I feel about that. Right?
No, like this is going to go in the back of your mouth, and you're going to bite out.
So after doing the test on myself, it was time to put it into action in the film, and we kind of showed the actors how to do it. There was actually only 2 of the actors that had to vomit blood. There was D.L. Walker and Sana. But D.L. Walker had the whole brunt of this deal here. He had to vomit about like 6 times. I think we made him throw up.
2, 3.
But when it came time to do it, we'd pump up the garden hose sprayer that built up pressure. Then we'd pull the trigger, and it would release it and push all the liquid out of it. And it was taped around the side of his mouth, so, and he had to bite down on it to hold it in his mouth. And we shot it from an angle so you couldn't see the tube going inside the mouth. And then we'd refill it.
Looks up high.
This will be my Facebook page.
Come on, get in there. Oh my gosh. Pull.
And we do it again.
It's fine. It looked good. Looked really good.
Napkins?
And again.
Oh, that looks great.
2, hurrah.
And again. And over and over and over again. We did it like, I think like 6 or 7 times on D.L. Walker.
I think I'm done now.
Which actually ended up being 3 times on film. He vomits 3 times within the movie, 1 time after the other. And so we had to shoot it about a total of 6 times to get all the takes that we needed. And I think he was not feeling too good afterwards, but he was a good guy, good trooper, good actor, so he's probably been through a lot worse too.
Than the other ones.
Did you give him like 300 pumps like we discussed before?
No, 75.
Then the other effect that we were doing was a little bit of mixture of practical and digital work. Was the bullet holes to the head, where people, like I said, a lot of people get shot in the head in this. So we did practical squibs where blood was spraying out the back. We actually used the same garden hose spray and the same hose to do the blood spraying out the back of the head. But what we had to do is like a bullet hole appearing. We want to do it in one shot where the bullet hole actually appears. So what we did is we practiced it a few times because we had to get it right on the first time. We actually ended up doing this shot twice. But where we put the bullet hole in the head with makeup, Tom would put the bullet hole makeup in. Then we shot it, timed it out so it sprayed out the back of his head.
Oh.
And then we were faced with what was left over, trying to make the bullet hole look like it suddenly appeared. And here we've got some digital effects I want to show you that kind of show how we did the bullet holes appearing. Like I said, they were actual physical makeup on his head, so a mixture between practical and digital effects. So here you see the makeup hole that is on his head right there appearing. So what we had to do is take that out before the gunshot goes off. So what we ended up doing was taking, so we shot it with the bullet hole in his head the entire time, obviously, so it was left there. What we ended up doing is taking a patch of skin. I made a still frame out of, we'd make a still frame out of his head, as you see here. Take a portion of this head over here and paste it on his head over there, covering the bullet hole, kind of a little Photoshop type deal. But then we had to, since his head was moving, we had to make it move, that patch move with his head. So all we'd simply do is the bullet hole would use what's called motion tracking. It would follow the bullet hole. You'd select some pixels around the bullet hole, and it would track it, following it, and it would lock that piece of skin that we duplicated from another portion of his head onto his head. And then when it gets shot, you just do like a 2-frame dissolve, and the patch of skin dissolves away, and thus leaving the bullet hole in his head, and all timed out, so it looks like the gun goes off, and the bullet hole appears, and all the blood sprays out of the back of his head, and there you go. Then afterwards, we did a little bit of extra post-production stuff on the gun. We wanted the gun to look like a flare was coming out, so this is pretty simple. It's used in a lot of people's. A lot of people do this in their movies now, where they just use a digital flare on their gun. It's a little combination to make it look like one huge flare coming out of the gun.
Man, you're alive! Hey, what are you doing, man? He's alive! Don't hurt him!
Anyway, and then another digital effect that we had to do, as I mentioned before, was the zombie eyes. We wanted the zombie to make it look like the zombie's eyes had changed, that these people were dead and their eyes were all red. So we created, for each eye that shows up in it, we created a little Photoshop eye that would be overlaid over the main eye. Then after that, it was pretty simple. We'd just size and crop it till it would fit the eye properly, and any rotation or anything that we had to do to get it to match the eye. We had the actors keep their eyes pretty wide open, with a little blinking, with very little to no blinking. And then we used what's called a match move here, where it would motion track to the eye there. It was really easy on the eyes because there was some sort of glint in the eyes, and it would keep track of usually the little white reflective portions of their eyes, and keep them locked to the eyes as the head moves and as the camera moves. And then we were able to put these over, change the opacity level, change the darkness, get them exactly where we wanted them to make them look like the type of zombies we wanted them to be. And sometimes if the shape just was a little bit off, we could use a masking tool and kind of crop out the size of the eye on the photoshopped eye to make it fit a little bit better. And sometimes if they moved around a lot, we could, and their eyes changed shapes, we could go in and just change the matte size or change the eye size. We tried to keep the shots pretty simple, so you just got the idea, with it being subtle enough that it's not screaming, hey, look at this big effect here. Hopefully it was subtle enough that people look at it, and I've had a lot of people watch it and ask if they were wearing zombie contacts, which is really good, because it saved us a lot of money to do this digitally, and also saved on some of the actors' eyes that never have worn glasses or worn contacts or anything like that. So if you've never worn contacts, it's really difficult to put them in, and takes a lot of getting used to. So it helped us quite a bit to do it like this. And I think between the makeup and the digital effects, we ended up with a pretty decent, fun-looking zombie.